Hi guys, welcome back to this series of UX videos. In today's video, we're just going to diverge away from information design a little bit, but since we've just covered the screen flows, the UI flows, and all the good stuff in our previous video, I think it's just appropriate that we look at the differences between requirements and flows here before we move on to the next section of information design. So, if you've ever taken part in a project, let's say a systems analysis and design project, you know that requirements are basically just the characteristics of a system that's being designed from the perspective of the end user. So, your client will come to you, the designer, and be like, I need this kind of a system designed. And you, as the designer, you have to ask the appropriate questions to gather the requirements from your client. You have to conduct interviews. If you have to interview users if you have to, but at the end of the day, you have to gather the requirements, and you need to make sure that you get this from your client in order to make sure that you're designing something that the client actually wants, something that the users would actually use. And one thing that you can note is that the requirements are not the objectives. They meet the objectives that have been designed, that have been described in a way. They meet the objectives of the system that you're trying to design, but they are not the objectives. For example, one requirement could be in terms of security, the usability of the system, and all the good stuff. But a takeaway from this video is that you gather the requirements from the client either at the beginning of the project, or if you're doing an agile approach, then you gather the requirements throughout the entire project. Just to recap, in our previous video we covered the user flow, and the user flow is basically made up of three components, which is the task flow, the screen flow, and the wire flow. But at the end of the day, the user flow shows the steps that your user will take in order to achieve a certain goal that they're trying to achieve. And with the screen flow and the wire flows, you actually show the user the sort of like prototypes of the system that you're designing. They will see exactly how the system is going to look like at the end of the project, once everything has been designed and it's ready to be used or to be put into production, basically. So now that we have looked at requirements and flows individually, what is the difference between requirements and flows? So requirements are sort of like very dry and very abstract. They're just a whole bunch of words written on a paper or like on a document, and they don't visualize anything for the end user. If you take your requirements and you go show them to the end user, so the end user can read them and be like, do they understand it or not? They won't be able to have that visual mental model as to what the end product is going to be. They just look at the requirements basically, but they're not sure exactly how those requirements are going to translate. So if you think watching videos versus reading, so a lot of people are like visual people. They want to learn as they watch stuff basically. So with videos, you're watching someone do something, so you can actually visualize and imagine it properly, as opposed to reading where you're just looking at the bunch of words written by someone. And it's the same thing with flows are like videos. With flows, we can actually see what the end user is going to go through, or what the end user goes through in order to get to the final stage, in order to achieve their desired goal. This is why visualization is a very important tool, and sometimes this is why in schools we tend to take part in practicals, so we are not just exposed to the theory part of whatever course that you're doing, but you actually go to it could be the laboratory, it could be you trying to design maybe a game or something, so you can actually visualize everything that you've learned in class, as opposed to just applying the theory that you've just memorized. That's all that we're going to cover in terms of the differences between requirements and flows. But one takeaway that you need to remember is that requirements do not translate to anything visual. Users won't be able to visualize whatever you're trying to tell them through requirements. But with flows, you can actually show them the screens that you have, and they can either approve or tell you where you can change, where you can improve. That's why we've already said visualization is a very powerful tool. But that's basically it. I hope you found this video very useful. Please don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in our next video.